Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome to Testa and Neal. Keep it real right here on WWSU 106.9 FM or on our YouTube channel. However you're listening to us, we appreciate it. Hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend. Parker, I know it looks a little different. I'm actually on my parents' deck because my apartment does not have internet right now. So we're making it work in the outdoor environment. So hopefully the mosquitoes don't start coming out.
Working with what we got. That's what we've done for the last 2 weeks. So, why not do more?
I got to admit.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Why not throw another wrench in our plans? Because that's what we've dealt with the last few weeks. But
Absolutely.
It's been a lot of fun.
I am excited about today's show. Just to give them a sneak peek about what we got to talk about. Indy 500 winner, big time event over the weekend. The largest sporting event since the pandemic. After that, NBA playoffs. We got a lot to catch up on over the weekend. Excited to get into that. We talked about the Bucks a little bit, but every other series has been back and forth. So I'm excited to get into that. Hour number 2 is the Right State Hour. The Raider gang. We know where they're going. We know who they're playing. We're going to talk about how they win coming up in the regional that they drew earlier today. So stick around for that. And also, it's June 1st now. So it's our way too early Horizon League basketball predictions because I couldn't wait until September to talk about some of the talent in this league. So we got to do it now.
Yeah. So, lots to dive into. I know you have a hot take coming up here
I do.
at the end in hour 2, but one that is
it's not going to make a lot of people happy, but
it's not. It's you're going to ruffle some feathers.
Yep.
But somehow I kind of agree with you.
Yep. As of now, there's still a lot that can change between now and October, but as of now, it's what I'm thinking, and I know a lot of people that listen to the show are going to think I'm stupid for thinking it.
Right. On paper, this take doesn't look, it's not that hot of a take, but when all of you hear this, it's going to be, what is this guy talking about?
Right.
But as of right now, this is not very hot of a take.
No, I don't think so either. All right, let's dive right into it. The Indy 500, Helio Castroneves wins his 4th ever Indy 500. I forgot to double check the stat. What does he become, like the 6th racer ever to win 4?
I believe it's 6. This is terrible that I'm an Indiana resident and don't know this, but
I know you and Jason were going crazy about it on Twitter on Sunday.
me and Jason are buds. Jason got to actually go, I think.
Jason went to Purdue.
Yes. So, So, congratulations to Elio. This is I actually got to watch it on TV for the first in a long time, actually, because they black it out here, but with 40%.
We got a little bit of a disconnection there, it seems like. See if he comes back. Stalling on this Tuesday afternoon. Appreciate you hanging out with us. You can follow us on our social media at WWSU1069. That's on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Make sure you give us a follow there. We're pumping out all sorts of content all June long, so don't miss out on any of it. WWSU1069. You can also follow us on our personal Twitters at ESPN Shea Neal. That's just SHEANEAL. Throw an ESPN in front of that, and then at Parker Testa. But while we wait for Parker to rejoin here, a lot to dive into today. Like he said, Helio Castroneves wins his 4th ever Indy 500. I'm excited to kind of debate with Parker about, the Indy 500 is just such a memorable event in sports and in racing. And what are some of the other events in sports that compare to that? I just heard him make a noise. Is he back? All right, he's back. Welcome back. All right, I will let you continue your point about Helio.
Yeah, so I've learned not to open long articles while recording this. So, but yeah, he just one of the coolest things happened this weekend, and it's really cool to see. I know a lot of the drivers talked about that it was vastly different not having fans in August, and having it in August is just weird because it's not Memorial Day weekend without the Indy 500. So that's what a lot of people said, and I would agree with them. So it was really good to see the race back. I had to work, but putting it on the radio and listening to it, just like I always do, it was really cool this weekend. Lots of action going on with the 500 this weekend. And I'm going to be a bit of a homer here for a second. I put out a tweet that I just absolutely loved, and I heard it on the radio broadcast. Noblesville resident, Noblesville, Indiana native Connor Daly led the 500 most of the way, I think, before unfortunately wrecking. But it was a quote that I loved, and they said Noblesville, Indiana native Connor Daly takes the 500 into turn one. And they cut to somebody in turn one of the reporters, and he goes, "I think I have half of Noblesville in turn number one." The entire track loved it. So
Yeah.
one of my favorite moments about the 500. But I think Elio, quite frankly, he deserved it this past weekend. He did. I know Roger Penske. I'm not going to say fired him, but that's essentially what he did. So good for Elio this weekend, and one of the great to see the greatest spectacle in racing back to normal.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, you might have told me this before. You're going to have to remind me. How far is Noblesville from the track?
A little over an hour.
A little over an hour. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not bad though.
Yeah. If I wasn't working, I would have went. Trust me.
Yeah. And I'm sure you could still, even if you weren't working, get a good tailgate in, even if you don't have tickets. So
for sure.
But like I said earlier, this was the largest crowd at a sporting venue since the pandemic started. It was just kind of cool to have that first ever normal sporting event. I know the Reds, just to kind of go back to what I know, the Reds are going back to full capacity on Wednesday. They're calling it reopening day, and they're trying their best to get a sellout crowd. And they've won 2 games in a row, so they're actually doing a pretty good job of getting people excited for Wednesday. But it's just cool to see sporting events back to semi-normal. It was great to see the Indy 500 popping with the crowd. It was a great atmosphere, great energy. And like I said earlier to start the show, there's really nothing in racing and in across a lot of sports. There's not a lot that compares to the Indy 500, and that's kind of what I want to get into here. What are some of those other sporting events, those other moments that compare to the Indy 500? It's got so much history, so much legacy to it. The only thing that pops in my head has got to be the final round at Augusta.
Yeah, it's very similar. And going back to what you said earlier, Castro Neves becomes the 4th person to win 4 Indy 500s.
Even more impressive than I thought.
Joining AJ Foyt, Al Unser, and Rick Mears as the only 4-time winners there. But yeah, I think there's lots of similar events like that. The 4th round of Augusta. Game 7 of the World Series.
Right.
Any Game 7 really, but none as big as none as big as the Indy 500. They all call that the Super Bowl of auto racing, and I would tend to agree.
What would you consider to be the second biggest racing event? Would it be Daytona?
Yeah, you could say the Daytona 500 is up there as well as one of the bigger ones, but yeah, there's just a bunch. You could go down the list. Any Game 7 imaginable, whether it's the World Series, the NBA Finals, no matter what it is, there's always lots of excitement going on. I was just as excited watching the Indy 500 on Sunday as I was watching the Raider gang score 3 touchdowns on Saturday.
Absolutely.
So
Raider gang pulled it, man.
I know we'll talk about the Raider gang here in a little bit, but I just couldn't hold my excitement in, Shea. That's just how excited I am.
It was a fun weekend, man. I don't know if your family got a chance to grill out for Memorial Day, but my dad made some really bomb. I know you're not an Ohio kid, but Cincinnati does that Skyline chili. So he actually had Cincinnati style chili burgers where it had the chili and the cheese inside the burger, and it was spectacular.
That sounds fantastic.
It was. And I'll tell you what, I had quite the weekend. I mean, holiday weekends are always fun. It's good to kind of have a weekend off from, the hectic life of work and sports and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of get to sit back and enjoy the weekend with my family. But it's good to be back on the grind, if you will. And I feel like in a way I'm kind of like recharged, refreshed, and ready to go. So back to work it is.
Yeah, it was a great weekend. I know we had chili cheese dogs tonight, but there was a great weekend of sports. The NBA playoffs is still in full swing. Like you said, the Raider gang and of course the Indy 500 this weekend. So we hope all of you out there listening had a great weekend because we both sure did. Holiday weekends are always awesome, like you said.
No doubt about it. And now the next big holiday is the 4th of July, and I'm always loving the 4th of July because there's a nearby high school, Centerville High School, that has a giant football stadium, and they always do a fireworks show at midfield, and they had to cancel it last year, obviously, but I'm excited to go to that. It's fun to just bring your friends out to, just have some fun. You usually have to park about a half mile away from the field just because of how many people go, but that's usually not an issue. The only time that was a problem for me is that my friends dragged me out there like 3 weeks after I broke my foot a couple years ago, and I had to crutch all the way to the top of that stadium, and it was the worst pain of my life. And but totally worth it. So the 4th of July, I mean, all the summer holidays, really, it's just a blast because the weather's always great. You can do cookouts, you can do bonfires, and it's just always good to be back, especially when we're in college and we're, away from our families a lot of the time. It's just good to take a couple days and kind of get back to what life was like a few years ago before everything got hard.
Right. Yeah. So it was great. You see, you see people out enjoying themselves, and back to what normal is now. And I saw a lot of people, especially going out to, whether they're going boating or going out to restaurants or whatever it may be. Great to see. This is like the first actual holiday weekend that we've had since
Right.
we've gotten back to whatever normal is now. So it's great to see that. And like you said, 4th of July is coming up also. Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day are like the three big ones that are always fun to look forward to.
Absolutely. And I mean, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Halloween, always great. But it's something about that summer weather, man. Just the ability to do a bonfire, to do a cookout, to do just be with your friends. Drink a. I'm 21, so I can say it. But drink an ice cold beer on the deck while grilling out some burgers and hot dogs or something like that. Summer holidays definitely hit different for me.
Yeah, and I think I'm definitely a warm-blooded person. I can't stand the cold.
I
Um,
agree.
so, so I'm definitely, my mood is a lot better when the weather's nice out. Um, and I'm sure you'll experience that kind of up here this winter when the weather turns. I'll be a lot more grumpy, but yeah, there's something, like you said, there's something about the warm weather. Actually being able to sit outside and not freeze your butt off. So, it's
Outside
great,
9
great,
o'clock at night right now.
right, great, yeah. So it's great to be, um, outside and enjoying the weekend with your loved ones.
No doubt about it. All right, we got a lot to get into still here in hour number one. So let's get into the NBA playoffs, Parker. We missed a lot over the weekend, and I want to start off with what's been my favorite series so far: Clippers and Mavericks. The big storyline: Luka dealing with a nerve injury in his neck. He's listed as day to day. He's expected to play in Game 5, but he really struggled in Game 4. The Clippers dominated, and they tie the series. LA is right back in this after just a few days ago we were kind of making fun of them for not being ready for Dallas.
Yeah, they are, and this is, I think this is another edition of what we should have called this show. We were both wrong. It
Yep.
was I think we both thought that Dallas would close out this series here this weekend, but no. The Clippers go into Dallas and they win 2 games, and they even the series. It's unbelievable. So they're playing very well right now, and it's fantastic to see. Kawhi and PG, that combination have played, incredible basketball over the weekend. So
We sure have.
they go back to Los Angeles with a chance to take a series swing here in Game 5.
No doubt about it. And I'm glad you brought up Kawhi and Paul George because that's what I wanted to touch on. Paul George got so much ridicule last year for being so terrible in the playoffs, inconsistent with his shot. Just wasn't that, Robin that Kawhi needed in the playoffs last year. This year, he's looked really, really good. Is this the PG-13 redemption tour? So far, it looks like it.
Yeah, he's played very well. And like you said, he's had to be that Robin, and he's been that Robin this year in these playoffs for Kawhi. I know Kawhi put up 36 on in Game 3 back on Friday night, but Kawhi put up 36 then, and Paul George was real close. He had 29, so he put up the game that Kawhi needed to kind of back him up, and they go into Dallas and they get a big win there. They won by 10, and I consider 10 a big win when you're playing a team like the Dallas
No
Mavericks.
doubt about it.
So they played well, and then going into Game 4, they really played well. And it was really great to see. Kawhi had 29, Paul George had 20, as well as Reggie Jackson had 15. So both these guys are just playing fantastic basketball, and they had the last 2 games. They did what they needed to do, and that was win 2 games, and they go back to LA with all the momentum.
They sure do. And that's really dangerous boat for the Dallas Mavericks to be in. Kawhi Leonard is, I mean, like you mentioned, he's really kind of flipped that switch from the first two games and has looked like that top three player in the world that we were talking about just a year or two ago. It seems like Kawhi is back to being that, top tier uh, LeBron, Kevin Durant, Giannis tier player these last two games. And if he keeps that up when they go back to LA, I love Luka Doncic. And honestly, I'm pulling for the Mavericks in this series. But Dallas is in a lot of trouble if Kawhi keeps playing like this.
Yeah, yeah, he needs to for the sake of Rick Carlisle, he's probably, praying to the basketball gods for Kawhi to kind of suck, if you will. But you're right. Kawhi's played, just fantastic basketball over the last two games. And like I said, they go back to LA with all the momentum. They're going to go back to a packed Staples Center, I think. They're going to and the Clippers are the team that a lot of LA doesn't like. Everybody's Lakers fans out there in LA, but the Clippers have a following, man. They really do, and those are some of the most loyal fans in all of basketball. So, yeah, they're gonna go back to LA with all the momentum in the world, and I expect, with the way that Kawhi and PG are playing, I expect them to win Game 5. I really do. And with the uncertainty with Luka and his neck. I expect Luka to be on a pitch count, some of a pitch count, if you will. So I think with the momentum that the Clippers have, and as well as Kawhi and PG are playing, I think the Clippers will win Game 5.
I'm leaning that way as well. I think the Clippers do. Momentum is a huge thing in the postseason, and the Clippers have it right now. But to go back on Luka, he did say he felt better today, but they're still kind of taking it one day at a time. The Mavericks' depth is really being tested in this series. Luka's obviously been an all-world talent that he is. Tim Hardaway Jr.'s had a pretty decent series, but three players that the Mavericks really needed to play big minutes have really struggled over the last 2 and even 3 games, and that's Maxi Kleber, Dorian Finney-Smith, and the biggest one, Kristaps Porzingis, has not had a good series. Right now, it's just the Luka Doncic show, and if it's just Luka versus Kawhi and Paul George are going to win no matter how good Luka is.
Yeah, they will. And it's like a freight train that you're not going to stop. If you're Luka and if you're Porzingis and Coach Carlisle, this is going to be this is I'm terrified. I'm kind of hanging around the tracks trying to get across, but I see that train coming, and that train is Kawhi and Paul George, and they're playing really good basketball right now. And if you don't get out of that way, that train's going to run you over. And I think they're a full steam ahead going back to LA coming up here in Game 5.
Yeah, and the way they're playing right now, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but if they can close out Dallas, I'd like this Clippers team to really take the one-seeded Jazz to the brink if they play like this. I think that Clippers team is talented enough to beat Utah. We just haven't seen them play like this consistently, and that's been their problem. If they play like this over the course of a series, they're right up there as one of the best teams in the West.
Yeah, and this is a Western Conference that is really good, and we all know how good the West is, and it's always been the dominant conference in the NBA. But that's just the same. It's this same old adage that we've said forever. They're really good, and like we said, none of these Western Conference series are 2-7, 1-8. Whatever you will, they're all 4-5s, or even they're all if you could have a 1-1 series, all these are 1-1 series because all these teams are really good.
Right.
And we saw that. The Suns come back and they beat up on the Lakers. They get the big win that they needed. So this Western Conference is really good right now. We don't have a bad series in the Western Conference. I think the only series that's not 2-2 is Jazz Grizzlies,
and Game 4 tonight. Yeah,
and that's that Game 4 is tonight. So and they're actually on right now, but
that could very well be 2-2. The Grizzlies are not your typical 8 seed.
No, they're not. Like we said, these are all 4-5 matchups, and they're all scary teams. I played basketball for like 25 minutes of my career, but it's hard, and it's hard to be really good. It's hard to win in any sport. It's really hard to win. So, and especially with going up against the best players in the world.
Yeah, let's get into Philly and Washington. The Wizards and the Sixers actually played earlier tonight, and I forgot to check the score. I know the Wizards were winning in the third quarter. But
that game just wrapped up. The Wizards pulled it out 122-114.
Okay, so the Wizards keep their season alive, but that doesn't change my opinion on this. The Wizards don't have the depth to keep up. Westbrook's battling an ankle injury. Beal's good, but they don't have the depth that Philly has in Thibault and Tobias Harris and Shake Milton and all these got Court Maz and all of these really talented players on Philly. And Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, we've been talking about it for years. When are they going to finally take that next step? Simmons and Embiid finally look like a contending duo.
They do, and they're looking very good right now. They're playing in sync, and they have chemistry. And chemistry is huge, especially in the NBA. Because if your team doesn't have chemistry, you're not going to win, and it's just that simple. And they're playing very well. Embiid didn't play well tonight. He only played 11 minutes, but and I think that's why the Wizards pulled that one out, because Embiid didn't play very much, and he didn't play very well. Tobias Harris had 21 here tonight, to go along with 15 from Maxey, 14 from George Hill, and 13 from Ben Simmons. So this was really a team effort tonight, but it wasn't enough to beat Washington with how good of games Beal, Westbrook, and Rui Hachimura had. It was tough, and Washington gets a well-deserved win at home, but I still expect Philadelphia to come out winners in this series.
I do too. It's incredibly difficult. You just mentioned how incredibly difficult it is to win in the sport of basketball. These are world-class athletes, no matter what team you play for. Even the worst team in the NBA has world-class athletes. It's extremely hard to beat the same team 4 games in a row. So I don't really consider tonight, I'm worried about Philly. It was a good win for the Wizards, but I'd still expect the Sixers to close this out back in Philly in Game 5.
Yeah, I do too. They're gonna go back to a packed arena there in Philadelphia, and I expect them to get it done. I really do. This Philadelphia team is the best in the Eastern Conference for a reason, and they're fantastic. So, like you said, Washington doesn't have the depth as good as Beal and Westbrook are. They don't have the depth to compete with guys like Simmons, Embiid, George Hill, Maxey, Seth Curry,
Dwight Howard,
Danny Green, Tobias Harris. They don't just have the depth, and depth goes a huge way in basketball. And Philadelphia has the edge in this series, and I think they'll pull it out.
Agreed. Let's move on to another one of my favorite series right now. You mentioned it earlier, the Lakers and the Suns. The Lakers lose home court advantage that they earned in Phoenix with a Game 4 loss to Phoenix. Anthony Davis, now that's the storyline. He's now day-to-day after suffering a groin strain. But the Suns even up the series, and I mean, this may be the easiest opinion in the history of sports radio, but if Anthony Davis isn't 100%, the Suns are the better basketball team.
Yeah, and they are, and you could make a strong argument that with Anthony Davis, the Suns the Suns are still really tough to beat, and they're a really strong team. They're number 2 in the West for a reason. They're really good, and we saw that. We saw that on last night, in where Chris Paul looks like he's back to normal, and that's what Monty Williams needed. And Monty Williams is thanking his lucky stars right now. If I'm Monty Williams, I am head over heels so appreciative to the trainer there in Phoenix, because they needed Chris Paul back, and they needed him back bad, and they got him back last night. He put up 18 in 32 minutes played with 9 assists, 3 rebounds. To go along with Booker's 17 and with Jay Crowder's 17. I almost said Jamison Crowder. That's a Washington, or that's a football player, but
he's now on the Jets. Yeah, he used to play for Washington.
Right. Yeah. So Jay Crowder had a fantastic game, and they've been looking for him to heat up, and looks like he did. He heated up at the perfect time. This Suns team played very good basketball, and they needed to. And like I said last week, if you can hold the Lakers under 100, if you can hold any team under 100, there's a really good chance you're going to win the game. And that's what the Suns did. They held down the Lakers defensively. Granted, Anthony Davis got hurt, and that's a storyline we'll continue to follow. But Without Anthony Davis, this team looks lost, and there's nothing else to it, one thing I think I've noticed with Anthony Davis is he's a tad fragile, and he gets hurt a lot more than people think. So without the Robin to LeBron's Batman, the Lakers are going to struggle, and we saw that last night.
Yeah, we did, and what bugs me about the Lakers is kind of what I talked about with the Mavericks earlier, where LeBron is obviously going to be an all-world talent, just like Luka Doncic is, but the Lakers don't have that second supporting cast where Kuzma, Caruso, and Horton Tucker have had a really tough series, and it's the LeBron and Anthony Davis show, and the depth of the Lakers is struggling to support them. And with a team like the Suns, yeah, they have Booker, they have Chris Paul, they have DeAndre Ayton, but they have guys like Crowder, they have guys like Mikal Bridges, they have guys like Cameron Payne. They have the depth that stepped up, made big shots for the Phoenix Suns. And so far, that's been the difference. I know it's tied 2-2 right now, but through 4 games, I'm more impressed with the Phoenix Suns than I am with the Los Angeles Lakers.
I am too, and it's not an easy task. Hey, go beat the Lakers, one of the most historical franchises in all of sports.
With LeBron James.
With LeBron James, with Anthony Davis, with a very strong coach and Frank Vogel. Good luck. And that's not an easy task to do. And give all the credit in the world to Monty Williams, to Chris Paul, to this entire Phoenix Suns franchise. They came in and they've played their butts off. They really have. And they've given the Lakers a lot more of a fight than I thought they would. And even though they're a 2 seed and they're the underdogs, they're playing like they should be favored. And I would tend to agree with them. They looked really good last night, and I won't be surprised to see that if they can play this good at the Staples Center. Imagine what they can do back in Phoenix. So I think they're gonna play well again. I think they really do. They have a really good shot to win this series.
They do. And that's kind of what I wanted to get to. Obviously, game 5s are always important because it's either 3-1 and one team's fighting to stay alive, or it's 2-2. And whoever wins when the series is tied 2-2 tends to win the series more times than not. So I have to ask, is game 5 a must-win for the Los Angeles Lakers?
This is tough because if you're without Anthony Davis, yes, you are. It's a must-win. But if they go down in game 5 and you get Anthony Davis back, it's not the end of the world. Don't freak out. Don't hit the panic button just yet. So I think this is all contingent on if Anthony Davis comes back here coming up in game 5. If you come up in game 5 and you lose in game 5 with Anthony Davis, I think it's a bit of a panic mode, because even then, if you get Anthony Davis back, you get him back that fast, he's not going to be 100%. There's no way. So there's as far as a must win goes, I don't think so. If they go down in game 5, game 6 is a must win, obviously. But I think if the Suns coming up in game 5 and they win, I really like their chances to win this series. I really do. If they come out and they play well in game 5, game 6 and 7, I have no problem going or swaying the Phoenix Suns way.
I agree. Let's move back out east. The Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets. Some people may say this has been a boring series, but I've seen, I've had fun with it on both sides. First of all, I know the Celtics have gotten outplayed 3 out of the 4 games, and I know they're down 3-1, and it looks like their season's coming to a close. Jason Tatum's been the best player in the playoffs. He has been an absolute joy to watch. That Celtics team has no business hanging with that Nets team. And in 3 out of those 4 games, they've been in it to the very end because right now Jason Tatum's the best basketball player in the world.
Yeah, he is. He's certainly playing like it. I don't know if he's the best in the world. I'd still give that edge to guys like Durant or Curry. But he's playing to that caliber. He really is. He put up 50 on Friday night against to get the win in an what was a must-win game. If you got 3-0, you're done. It's just the way it is. Unless you're 2004 Red Sox, you're done. It's the way it is. So he put up 50 to go, as well as Marcus Smart put up 23 and Tristan Thompson put up 19. But to go up against Harden's 41, Durant's 39, Irving 16. The guys, the Celtics should not win against a team like the Brooklyn Nets,
especially without Jaylen Brown. Even if they had Jaylen Brown, I'd still pick the Nets in 5.
Exactly. And and give Brad Stevens and give Jason Tatum credit because they've earned it. This is another team like the Phoenix Suns that drew just a really, just a crappy end of the stick because you got to go up against the super team in the NBA this year, and that's the Brooklyn Nets. And they've held their own. They really have. They've been close in most of these games in this series. And they've been really good, and especially on Friday night, they were really good. They played well. Didn't play so well in Game 4, but give them credit. I thought this was going to be a sweep, and it certainly looked like that through the first 2 games. But give Boston credit; they played well on Friday night.
They sure did. And it's something that, myself included, a lot of people wrote off this Boston Celtics team before the playoffs even started. I was like, no Jaylen Brown, this team's going to get steamrolled. And the Nets are still going to knock them out. But the way this team has played, the way that Jason Tatum has played, the way that this team has hung around with the Brooklyn Nets, I don't think anybody expected Brooklyn to get pushed as much as the Boston Celtics have pushed them. And it proves that the Nets are vulnerable. And that's exciting for teams like Philly. That's exciting for teams like a team that's playing really, really well right now and that's waiting on the Brooklyn Nets, the Milwaukee Bucks. You'd asked me a week or 2 ago if I thought the Bucks could beat the Nets. I'd tell you no. But the way they played in round 1 against Miami, the Bucks have a shot. They do.
Yeah, they do. They really, really do, and they're playing very well. And the Bucks are a team that a lot of people wrote off, and really, especially going down the stretch because why? They're in a small market, or Giannis can't carry you to the playoffs or through the playoffs.
Yeah.
But this Miami team did not play well at all, and this is like I thought
the Miami roster, they didn't play well because Milwaukee played really good.
Right, and this is what I thought what was going to happen with the Bucks or with the Heat. They're going to come out and they're going to have Tyler Hero be that hero that he was last year. Jimmy Butler's going to play well. Bam Adebayo is going to play well. And what happened? I never thought I never thought we would see this version of Jimmy Butler again, where he's just kind of it doesn't seem that his heart's in it. It really doesn't, This is what we saw in Minnesota. This is what we saw when he was in Philadelphia. He looks like he doesn't want to be there, and that's killer if you have the situation that Eric Spoelstra has right now. You just got swept. Your year is done, and it's really just kind of a bleak future for the Miami Heat because you don't know who's going to be back. You don't know who's going to return next year. So give the Bucks credit. They came in and they whooped butt here in this series. They really did. They swept Miami Heat team who a lot of people thought was going to go deep in these playoffs like they did last year. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Miami Heat do in this offseason. But give Giannis and crew credit. They played very well.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, as recently as a week and a half ago, we kind of said that we're just kind of waiting for it to inevitably be Philadelphia and Brooklyn in the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think Philly's playing bad right now. I think they're playing well. But the way that Brooklyn and the way that Milwaukee is playing right now, that Bucks-Nets series, the winner of that could easily represent the East in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, and if you're Doc Rivers, if you're the Philadelphia 76ers, the Milwaukee Bucks are not the Washington Wizards. They are very good, and they just swept a Miami Heat team who a lot of people thought was going to make a deep run into these playoffs. So this is not a pushover team. It's really not. That this Milwaukee team is very good. They just swept the Miami Heat. But the 76ers aren't a team to write off either. Washington's given them a tough test, but we both think they're going to move on and go further into these playoffs. But it wouldn't surprise me to see Bucks Nets in the Eastern Conference Finals, and it wouldn't surprise me to see Nets Sixers in the Eastern Conference Finals. So this is what's so fun about the NBA playoffs, especially after the first round. It gets down to the nitty gritty, and you see what teams are really, really good.
Absolutely. Testa and Neal keep it real right here on WWSU 106.9 FM or on our YouTube channel, WWSU 106.9. We appreciate you hanging out with us here on this Tuesday. Happy June, everyone. If you're just now joining us, we hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend. spending time with your family. Hopefully you got a chance to grill out. Hopefully you got a chance to, spend some time in the nice weather. It was a little cooler than normal. I joked with some friends over the weekend, Parker. I said, I know you're not a Buckeye fan, but I said, I woke up one day for work and it was like 55 degrees outside. I had to wear a hoodie. And I'm like, I wake up and it feels like this outside. I'm expecting an Ohio State noon kickoff, and I didn't get it. So
Yeah,
it's not what you should be expecting in May.
right. And it's interesting because the last couple of weeks we've had like 85 degrees, and now all of a sudden it got cold again. So, but it's almost like it's an October Saturday. So,
Right.
like you said, so cold in the morning, but it warms up, and it actually turned out to be a really nice weekend. So,
It did. Today was, I mean, we're recording this on Monday night, but today was absolutely beautiful. Could not have asked for much better weather on a Memorial Day. But,
sure was. Yeah,
um,
and like you said, we hope you all had a great weekend. Hopefully you got to spend some time with the family, like you said, grill out, enjoy the beautiful weather that we had this weekend too, as well.
no doubt about it. We still got a lot of show to get into. We still got a couple playoff series to break down here to end hour number one. We got about 20 minutes left here in the first hour. Hour number two, for you Raider fans, you're going to want to stick around. The Raider gang, we know where they're going. We know who they're playing, and we are excited to break it down. Also, it's June 1st, so you're probably going to laugh, but it's the way too early Horizon League basketball predictions. I mean, one of the Horizon League schools just got one of the best high school recruits to ever come to the conference. Wright State's trying to get revenge after coming up short in the tournament the last couple of years. Who are the favorites out of each league? We'll talk about that in hour number two. I'm really excited for today's show. I know I'm excited for every show, Parker, but the content that we have today, I really think this is one of my favorite shows that we've done so far.
Yeah, it sure is. Talking a little auto racing, talking some NBA, talking, of course, about how fantastic the Raider gang is. I'm not going to shut up, and neither will you. I know.
How good were they over the weekend?
We sit here and we'll brag about the Raider gang all day long because they are that awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't want to listen to it, you don't have to. We're just gonna sit here and just fangirl about the Raider gang, just like we do about guys like Shohei Ohtani and
WWSU, yeah,
and WWSU, and how good about basketball Kevin Durant is, or whatever it may be. We'll sit here and we're gonna fangirl about it because we love baseball, we love the Raider gang, and they played very well.
And why the hell would you listen to our show if we weren't passionate about sports? I mean, I think that, yeah, we're cringe. To use a quote we used last weekend, yeah, almost 80% of the stuff on this show is cringy and lame, but we clearly are passionate about everything we do. We just got into a very heated debate about Trevor Story coming to the Reds. But I mean, I don't know, like, personally, and I think a lot of people are in this boat. I don't like listening to people in media in general, not just sports, but in media in general, if you're not passionate about what you do. And that's something that I really try to take to heart. I mean, I've said it numerous times and I fully mean it. I'm completely okay with stopping doing sports radio, stopping doing sports media as soon as I'm not having fun with it anymore. I think I'm going to have fun with it for a really long time. But when I'm not having fun with it anymore, I'm not going to do it anymore because it's not the same experience for me, and it's not the same experience for you listening at home.
No, and like we say all the time, if you don't want to sit here and you don't want to watch the games, or you don't want to sit here and just talk about it for as long as it may take all the time, get off the air. I mean, and move over, because there are people who will gladly take your place and who will sit here and talk all day long about things that don't matter, which is essentially what 80% of this show is. So, we sit here, we talk about a lot of things that don't matter, but do we enjoy it? Hell yes, we do. So it's something that we sit here. I mean, we sit here and record until midnight a lot of times, just to put out some awesome content for you guys. So it's dark out, and I'm literally looking at a clock right now. It says 10:22, right on the dot. So,
here, folks, I mean,
exactly
for you,
right? So, if you don't love it, just stop doing it, because there are people that love it, and we certainly love what we do right now. So, if you don't, we'll sit here and we'll talk about things that don't matter and yell into microphones at each other about something stupid that one of us says, but we enjoy it, and that's why we do it.
No doubt about it. All right, a lot of show to get into. Like I said, you can follow us on social media at WWSU1069. That's on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Give us a follow on our YouTube channel as well if you haven't already. I just checked the analytics. We love that we've been getting the kind of content that or the outreach that we've been getting on that YouTube channel. It's been great. But 45% of you that watch us on YouTube are not subscribed, and I'd like for that to change. I think everyone that watches us should be subscribed to WWSU 1069 on YouTube. As well as you can follow us personally at Parker Testa and at ESPN Shea Neal. If you are following us on social media, we did drop a Memorial Day graphic today. And how good did that look, Parker? I didn't even know we were doing that.
I didn't either. I saw that this morning and was just like, wow, it's just yet another thing that Morgan's doing things better than us at. You know, she's really kicking butt. You know, and I better step up my game here if I want to have a chance to have to have the sports department be as good as our marketing department. Even then, I think at my best, I will not come close to the good things that she.
To be fair,
doing.
you don't have Dylan as your right hand man, but
yeah, that's true. She has a competitive edge, but she's really killing it. And I know you sent a text to our group earlier tonight that we're a month in, and then we haven't even scratched the surface. So we're having a lot of fun, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. We say it all the time. We're having more fun than anybody on Wright State's campus.
Absolutely.
Unless you're the Raider gang, they look like they're having a lot of fun.
The Raider gang is kind of kicking butt right now, but no, I totally agree. And I mean, like I said, this is the most successful May I can ever remember us having here at the station in my 4 years here. But June should be better than May. July should be better than June. You keep building on what you set. And by the time we get to September, October, November, I mean, we're unstoppable. And like I keep preaching, like we keep preaching. I've had everyone on the staff mention this at some point, whether it was in a one-on-one, whether it was in a director meeting. I love that everyone's on the same page, but we're all gunning for the same thing. We want to be Org of the Year, and I think that we have the talent. I think that we have the resources, and I think that we have the drive to be the Org of the Year at Wright State University. And really, honestly, I don't think the staff is – I think the staff's going to be disappointed if we don't get there.
Yeah, that's the goal. And if we don't meet that goal, we're going to be incredibly disappointed. But we're going to be up there. So all of you other orgs, watch out. You know,
we have a lot of talented competition, but I mean, like I said, we have the talent, we have the drive, we have the resources. I think when we're clicking the way that we're clicking right now and the way we're going to keep clicking moving forward, I don't know if there's anyone that can hang with us.
No, it's going to be tough. You know, it's like my competition with Morgan to be better, but that's tough competition. And WWSU is Morgan, and every other org is me right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're doing some great things, and I'm excited for not only. I mean, we've done some awesome things in a month, and I can't wait to see what we continue to do coming up here in June, July, and as we get into the school year as things start to ramp up.
Absolutely. And that's good competition. I'm glad you brought that up because that's good competition to have. I don't think we had that in the past where sports and marketing are competing for who gets the most, interactions on social media. And engineering is constantly trying to up the game with the new software. How good does that display sign that he's working on? He put our headshots on the display signs, and now people walking past the station can see the headshots. Like I sincerely meant it. I put it in that text that I sent the group chat, and I sincerely mean it. I expected good things when I brought this staff in, but every single person has exceeded my greatest expectations so far. And the work that we've pumped out in the month of May was absolutely exceptional. And I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better May, but like I said, we build on it, and June's got to be even better.
Sure it is. Yeah, it sure is. It's been awesome. It really has. And I know I'm doing as much work as I can remotely, but
you'll be back in town next week, though.
I will. I'll be there, and I'll be sure to give you whatever help I need. But yeah, it's been awesome, and there's we really appreciate all the help that all the other orgs have given us. I know we've been kind of in. It's what you preached through the entire process before going into the year. Not a rebuild, but a reload.
Absolutely.
And we're on like 60% right now, and we'll reach the finished install by August. So we're ready to run
date by August 10th. Yeah.
Right. We're gonna get going here, and we're coming up here in August and ready to pump out the best possible content that we can, as well as get whoever wants to get them involved in any way we can.
For sure. And we got a lot of stuff still working on behind the scenes that we're hopefully going to be able to present to you very, very soon. I know that Parker knows what I'm talking about when I say idea behind the scenes that I'm hoping we get to share with you very, very soon. But if that does end up getting the A-OK, which I think it will, because I think we have the arguments for it, and I think that we finally have a sales pitch that's going to get it approved. That's just that's a level that we haven't reached before, and that's going to be really exciting, because that's going to give us more opportunities to share our content with you, whether it's sports interviews, whether it's album reviews, whether it's our staff directory, whether it's becoming a DJ, whether it's reaching out to us for wanting a commercial recorded, stuff like that. We're trying to make that as easy as possible. We get that it's 2021 and not everyone listens to the radio like they did 15, 20 years ago. So we're trying our best to make it as modern as possible, and we're excited that you decided to join us for the ride.
Yeah, and like you said, Patrick's doing some fantastic work with our public display sign.
College radio. I've said it those times.
Yes, yeah, right. He is, no doubt about it. And it's you'll see our faces as you walk by our office there in the student union. And that helps people like me, because I'll remember your face, but with names I am terrible.
Exactly.
So that is
email address, right?
Right. So that's something that'll help. I'm sure not only the people listening, but the people walking by, and a lot of people walk by and kind of, hey, what's that about? And they don't really stop. But I think that new display sign that Patrick is putting together is going to make them, it's going to pique their interest and want to stop in and say hi and kind of get involved.
Right. And this is the last thing I'm going to say, because we still got to get through 2 more playoff series before the end of hour number 1 here in 9 minutes. But even the simple stuff, like we redid the lobby last week. And I mean, I can't say we, because that was Morgan's idea, but it just looks new. It looks modern. It pops more, I think. And it's something that when students start walking through the halls of the union in August, I think they're going to stop and say, yo, that looks different. And that looks really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I saw what you guys did to the place, and just another thing, just another great idea that Morgan had. She's lapping all of us in best staff member races, but
she now sits in her office and holds up L's at me from across the room just to intimidate me.
But yeah, it's really cool, and like you said, it's not a rebuild, it's a reload or a refresh. It's I think what the best word I can describe it as is it's refreshing, and it's really cool to see, and I'm really excited for what's still to come.
Absolutely. Let's get back into the NBA. We got 2 more series to talk about. The Blazers dominate Game 4 and even up the series with the Nuggets heading back to Denver. Nurkic and Carmelo stepped up. Dame had a rare off night, but Nurkic, Melo, that supporting cast stepped up. How good was Robert Covington? How good was Norm Powell? That team was really, really good. And Dame only had like 10 points in that game. It was one of the worst games I ever remember Dame Lillard playing. But the role players bailed him out. Portland looked like a really, really good basketball team.
They did. They played very well with the Nuggets team, who I've said all along I think is the deepest team in the NBA. I really do, and they play well, especially especially Covington. Lillard didn't play well. He played 31 minutes, only had 10 points, but Powell played well. Nurkic played well, and McCollum played very well, and they shut down a Nuggets team who a lot of people think has a real shot to win the finals, and they shut down Jokic, who is an MVP finalist. So they played very well in a Game 4, and I think it's a game that they needed to win, and they did.
Yeah, absolutely. And you brought up Jokic, and that's my big thing with the Nuggets. MPJ, you talked about their depth, and they have depth. But right now, it's Michael Porter Jr. and Jokic providing the majority of scoring for Denver, and that's clearly not been enough. They need a third player to step up. Normally, that's Jamal Murray, but Jamal Murray's out for the rest of the year, obviously. They need that third player to step up. I don't know if it's Will Barton. I don't know if it's Bol Bol. I don't know if it's Campazzo. I don't know who it's going to be, but you're not going to knock out this Blazers team with just Jokic and just Michael Porter Jr. Portland is way too good for that.
Yeah, they are. And they've faced it's another Western Conference series that we both think is really good, and but from two teams that are very talented, and with guys like with Millsap, with Jermichael Green, and there's just plenty of depth on this team. It's one of the deepest teams in the NBA, like I said, and Portland shut them down. They really did, and they had to win that game. So they come back and they even up the series in Portland. And the next three games are going to be a lot of fun to watch if we make it to Game 7.
They sure are. They sure are. And the way this series is going right now, I think we do get to a Game 7. So I'm excited for that. Last thing I wanted to touch on in this series is Game 5 a must-win for the Denver Nuggets? Back at home, I'm going to say yes. Jokic and MPJ have to deliver. The role players have to step up. Denver has to find a way to win at the Pepsi Center because I don't know if they're going to be able to win a game in Portland.
Yeah, it's interesting. You got to go back. You're on your home court, and as far as a must-win, I'm a little bit, I'm a little bit shaky on that. Yes, they are at their home court, and it is tough to win on the road. But I think if you go to a Game 7, I think Denver has the momentum because they are the deeper team. So I think Denver has the momentum if you go to a Game 7, just because they'll be back on their home court, as well as they have more depth, and but you do not bet against Damian Lillard. So this is really tough for me. As far as a must-win goes, I don't think it's a must-win for Denver as we head into Game 5. But you got to put up a fight. If they get blown out, I'm nervous for the Denver Nuggets.
I am too. All right, let's move into the final series of the playoffs that we're going to talk about today. We'll throw out why not? We'll throw out a Grizzlies Jazz score as well. I'll get that pulled up here for you in just a second. Live radio, folks. Hope you enjoy it. But right now, it does sit 41-40. Utah leads about 5 minutes into the second quarter. Again, the Jazz lead 2-1 in that series right now. So if Utah wins that game and goes back to Utah, up 3-1, I think it's over because they have Donovan Mitchell back, and I think they're the better team. If Memphis finds a way to win this game tonight, I mean, it's a best of 3, and anything can happen in a best of 3.
Yeah, best of 3s are sometimes they're more intriguing than best of 7s because there's less games and you got to play as well as you can, going into these series. So, as far as Jazz Grizzlies go, this is tough. The Jazz are the better team, I think, but the Grizzlies, like you said, they're not your typical 8 seed. So, they're a very good team.
John, superstar, man. He's so fun to watch.
He is, and but as far as the Utah Jazz go, they still have guys like Donovan Mitchell, and they're playing very well. Quinn Snyder, I think, is a very underrated coach in the NBA. I love Quinn Snyder. So I think the Jazz, like you said, they're up 2-1, and if they win tonight, down 3-1, it's going to be tough for the Grizzlies to come back in. But I think if they go down 3-1 and if they win Game 5, they have some momentum, and momentum, like you said, is really big in any sport, especially in these NBA playoffs. So the Jazz are very good, but the Grizzlies are just as good, and they're both very good teams here. But I think the Jazz are the better team, and I've said it all along. I think they come out on top in this series. But the Grizzlies have given more of a fight than I thought they would. They really have.
I agree, and I think Memphis is a team on the rise that in the next 2-3 years could be where the Jazz are at as a top seed in the West. So I'm excited for the future of the Memphis Grizzlies. Let's get to the final series that we're going to talk about today before we get into Wright State Hour number 2, if you will, the Raider Gang, Wright State preseason, way too early Horizon League basketball picks, whatever you want to call it. I just wanted to have fun and talk about some of the new players in the league, talk about some of the contenders. And why do I have to wait until September to talk about Horizon League basketball? I don't think that's fair. I think
this is our show. We can do what we want.
I think I should be able to talk about Horizon League basketball on June 1st, damn it.
Right. This is our show. We do what we want. So when we want to talk about Horizon League basketball in June, damn it, like you said, we want to do what we want. And we're going to talk about Horizon League basketball if we want to, even if it is June and we're still, 4 or 5 months away from the season. We're going to talk about it whenever we want because it's just that fun.
Absolutely. So Knicks and Hawks. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little disappointed in the Knicks. The Hawks win both games in the A in convincing fashion. Role players really stepped up for Atlanta and hit some big shots. Trae Young looks like an absolute stud in his first ever postseason. I've been really impressed with Trae Young.
I have too. awesome, and they really are. Trae Young has played very well. He's one of the NBA, one of the NBA's youngest rising stars right now, kind of like John Morant. I actually saw a pretty funny statistic earlier today or yesterday that Trae Young's dad is actually younger than Vince Carter, which I think is hilarious. But Trae Young. Right, yeah. So Trae Young's played very well, and like you said, I'm disappointed in the Knicks. I thought they would come out and they would play better than they did, but give the Hawks credit. They've come out and they've played very well. And you think I think after the Knicks beat them at the Garden, that was kind of a kick in the butt that they needed. And then I think Nate McMillan uh, has preached that also. So. This series was one that we thought in the Eastern Conference was one of the more intriguing ones. But Atlanta has come out and they've proved us that they're the better team, and they've looked like it here in the last two games.
They sure have. I'm really impressed with Atlanta. I thought the Knicks had more experience, and that would lead them to the win in this series. But I'm not going to lie, the Hawks have looked like the better basketball team. I will admit, though, Julius Randle and R.J. Barrett have really struggled for New York in this series. But Derrick Rose has been really consistent and really solid for the Knicks. He's been their bright spot so far in this series. Like I said last week, I don't care who you were a fan of. I don't care. I couldn't care less about the New York Knicks. But I don't care who you're a fan of. If you're a basketball fan in general, it's just really cool to see Derrick Rose back to playing at a high level. I know he's going to get a really good contract this offseason. I think it's going to be from the Knicks because I don't think the fan base is going to let him leave New York. But it's exciting to see Derrick Rose back to a really high level in the NBA, and I'm excited to see him play point guard in the league for the next few years to come.
Yeah, I am too. I think all of New York would rip Jim Dolan's head off if he didn't bring Derrick Rose back to the Knicks. But they're a team that I think is on the rise. That I never thought I would say that about a New York Knicks team, at least here in the near future. But they're a team on the rise, and they've put on a show here throughout the entire year, and especially in these playoffs. I think Tom Thibodeau has proved that this is not a pushover team anymore. They're not in a pushover city. There's been teams that are really good and they're in pushover cities like the Milwaukee Bucks, like the Phoenix Suns. But the New York Knicks were always a pushover team in a city that has the most loyal, one of the most loyal fan groups in the country, and they've put out bad basketball for a long time, and they flipped the switch this year. They really have. So I think Derrick Rose has given the Knicks what they've needed, and that's a spark, both offensively and defensively. That switch inside Derrick Rose, that hey, I can be really good when I want to be, has turned on inside Derrick Rose, and he's returned to the Derrick Rose of old that we saw 10 years ago. So he's playing very well, and if the Knicks end up losing this series, which looks likely right now, they put on a hell of a show, and I can't wait to see what the Knicks do next year.
Yeah, and I mean, Derrick Rose, and I think he brings the first true sense of leadership that the Knicks haven't had since Melo, where they've always kind of struggled to find that guy that can be the guy, and I think Derrick Rose has emerged as that guy. But hour number one in the books. We appreciate you hanging out with us here on Keep It Real with Testa and Neal on WWSU 1069 and our YouTube channel. I think I'm going to come back with the Kev back too because it's pretty dope and we haven't used it in a few days. But we're going to step away for a few minutes. You're actually going to get to experience something a little different. My laptop is about to die, so I'm going to move locations so I can plug it in. So you're actually going to get to see me set up in my childhood bedroom. So that's exciting. So get ready for it. But a lot to get into. It's Right State hour number 2. When we come back, the Raider gang. Where are they playing? Who are they playing? And how do they win? We'll get into all of that as well as the way too early Horizon League basketball talk. Don't go anywhere. Keep it real. Keep it locked. We're back in 5 minutes. All right, we are back here for hour number 2. I know the audio is a little different now. I did successfully move locations, so introducing you to my childhood room. Obviously, my parents have messed with it a little bit, but this is indeed where your boy grew up a little bit, at least for part of the childhood. We moved here when I was 10, so we spent about 8 years here, but good to be back. And now the laptop is charging, so we won't have to stop recording in like 18 minutes. So we're good.
Awesome.
Yep.
Back at it.
Back at it, indeed.
Hey, before we get started here with hour number 2, just want to shout out my man, Coach Small. I'm gonna say this. It's gonna be a little bit different, but whereas we're recording this on Monday night, if you're out there listening, Coach, great to see you today, or well, when this is airing, great to see you yesterday. One of our loyal listeners, so really appreciate that. So. All of you out there listening, we appreciate you. But Coach, great to see you yesterday. And I appreciate you listening as always.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, man. It doesn't matter how long you do this, or for what station or whatever. Somebody tells you that they listen to your show or whatever. That's pretty freaking cool. Yeah, I mean, shout out to everyone who listens to this show. I know I've got a couple, like that day that Justin left us a comment on the YouTube feed, like stuff like that. I mean, that's just cool. That's really cool stuff. I'm not gonna lie. So we do appreciate everyone tuning in, however you're tuning in. Make sure you give us a follow on social media at Parker Testa, at ESPN Shea Neal. Keep up to date with the show. But we're excited to keep this show going. I mean, we're almost a full month in the books, and that's crazy to believe. But we still got, almost more than 2 full months to go before the summer ends. So still plenty of content to get into. So make sure you don't miss any of it here in the coming months.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot to break down. We still have to dive into college football coming up here soon. There's the NFL
camp, yeah.
Right, the NFL is going to be coming back here in a little under 2 months. So we're excited. There's still a lot more to go. The NBA or MLB All-Star break is going to be coming up, and we're going to talk about that. Our way too early playoff predictions we'll probably do here at the beginning of July.
Yep.
There's going to be a lot of trade deadline talk coming up here with baseball, so lots more to get into.
And for you Wright State fans, don't think we forgot about you, because volleyball and basketball are releasing their schedules in the next month and a half as well. So a lot to get into still. I'm still holding out hope, and I talked about this with Lee Mowen, a friend of the station and alum, a couple days ago at Dare Ballpark. But I really want to see a rematch of Wright State UD in volleyball. That deserves a crowd.
Oh, that was one of my highlights to call that match this past year. It was
you did that by yourself, man. You killed it.
Yeah, that phone call from you. Hey, you're doing this by yourself tonight. I was like, what?
But I got a call from Nick, and he's like, "Hey, we want you to do it for ESPN Plus," and I can't say no to that. So I just called you, and I'm like, "Hey, you're on your own. Good luck, buddy."
Right? Yeah, but it was a blast, and it really was. And it's a shame that either team in that match had to lose, because both teams deserve to come out winners.
Yeah. And both teams won NCAA tournament games at the end of the
year. Right. Yeah. So
very good.
Yeah, so Coach Matters, if you're out there listening, Coach Horseman, if you're out there listening, make it happen again. We want to see it.
Let's get it. Yep. We know that there's some sports that Wright State and UD will never play in, but volleyball is not one of them. So let's make it happen.
Yeah.
I totally agree. All right, let's get into Wright State hour number 2. We still got plenty to talk about here in the last, 45 minutes of the show or so. A lot to dive into. Appreciate you hanging out with us. The Raider gang are going to Knoxville, Parker. They take on they're heading to the Tennessee Regional. The 4 teams in their regional, Tennessee, Duke, Liberty, are the 3 teams that match up with Wright State in the Knoxville region. I know a lot of people are upset with that, because Tennessee was a top 5 team in the league this year. They came second in the SEC, only to Arkansas, who's the number 1 team in the country. But I think this Tennessee team's a very beatable team. And I think all 3 teams in this region with Wright State, I see a path for the Raiders getting out. And that's all I could ask for. I see a path for the Wright State Raiders to get to the Super Regionals.
Yeah, and you might remember last year during the 15 games or whatever they played before COVID hit, this is a Tennessee team that Wright State took 2 out of 3 in Knoxville from. So this is a beatable team, and I think they'll do it again.
Exactly. And I've had so many people tell me this Tennessee team's way better than that Tennessee team. Well, this Wright State team's better than that Wright State team. So, I mean, it's your best versus our best. And last time they matched up, Wright State's best beat Tennessee's best. And obviously Tennessee's the top 5 team in the country and will be favored. But Wright State's got the talent to beat this team. There's no denying that.
Yeah, I sat there and I watched that selection show today, and it was just awesome to see the entire staff and players all in the Berry room there at the Nutter Center, just waiting, and to see them go nuts was really cool to see. But this is the best the best of the best, and this is a team that had the highest scoring offense in the entire country at around right above 10 runs a game. So they're going to be this Wright State team is going to be tough for Tennessee, and vice versa. Wright State has some tough opponents coming up.
They do.
Liberty, Duke, and Tennessee are not pushover teams.
Not at all.
They're in the NCAA tournament for a reason.
Yeah.
They are in the regionals
and
for a reason.
And Wright State's the 4 seed, and those 3 teams are not the 4 seed for a reason. They all have what the committee determined to be better resumes than Wright State. So Wright State's going in, the least likely to get out of this region. And I'm not saying that I expect them to get out of this region, but all I could ask for as a mid-major college team fan is that there's a path to get out of this region. And I think there's a way that Wright State can beat all 3 teams in this region.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. And you know what I think that way is? This is my solution for anything. Do what they've done all year and outscore everybody.
Right.
That's my solution. You just got to find a way to hit the damn ball, and you got to find a way to hit it over the fence like they did in the championship game on Saturday. This is for me. This is the one of the. It's if you can't hit the ball, you're not going to win. And I think what Wright State's done all year is they've just ran up the score on everybody. And I think that's what they're going to have to do again if they're going to get out of this. If they're going to get out of this regional, they have to find a way just to score at will, because all of these teams in this regional are very tough teams. I saw a tweet from ADBG Bob Grant here earlier today from one of his colleagues that said Wright State is selection show you, and that's something that's a quote that I love, and it sums up this year for Wright State perfectly. You know, our women's basketball team made the NCAA tournament. They won a game. Volleyball made the tournament, won a game. Can we make it 3? Can we make it a third program at Wright State in the same year to win a game in the NCAA tournament? I think it's possible, and I think Wright State is like you said, it's not going to be easy, but they can do it, and they can get out of this regional and make it supers.
They can. This Tennessee team really, really good. Like I said, one of the best teams in college baseball. It's pretty likely that Wright State's going to get to see their best starter, and that's Chad Dallas. Chad Dallas is an interesting story. He was recruited to Tennessee as a very small guy, 5'11", 200 pounds. He was recruited to be a right-handed reliever. They saw what he did in a bullpen session. They liked it. They made him a starter, and this year he was Tennessee's best starter. He went 10-1 with a 4.07 ERA, but don't let that ERA fool you. He's a 1.1 whip. He's only given up 78 hits in 86 innings with 101 strikeouts. He has pinpoint command, only 17 walks, and only a 236 batting average against. So much like the last time the Raider gang went to the tournament and faced Tristan Beck and number 2 Stanford, Tristan Beck was one of the best pitchers in the country. Chad Dallas is one of the best pitchers in the country. That Raider gang, they have the best offense in the country. They're going to have to bring their top-tier bats to Knoxville because Chad Dallas is the real deal.
Yeah. You know, this is tough, you know, and he's a guy who, like you said, has pinpoint command. And if there are guys that can just throw the leather off the ball, and that's great. But if guys have command and they can put pitches where they want and make them move, it's insanely tough to hit. I still think hitting a baseball, especially at the college level and even into pro baseball, is one of the hardest things to do in sports. Especially, you know, in Little League. You know, I mean, I wasn't very good at baseball, I'll admit it. Hard hitting was very tough. Even at, you know, in 5th grade, it's tough, man. So it really is. So I think this Wright State offense is going to have to shine, like you said. And like you said, this pitcher coming up here for Tennessee is one of the best in the country, and he's gonna give Wright State fits, and if they can figure out If I know Coach Sogard, they're going to be in the film room a lot
Right.
here before they head to Knoxville, studying all these pitchers, studying these hitters on the defensive side of the ball,
Right.
and trying to figure out ways they can beat. Because if you're an underdog, you got to find ways to exploit the top dog, and a lot of these
Right.
teams don't have a lot of weaknesses. So you got to find what they struggle with, and like you said, you got to hammer that weakness home until they break. You find a way to win, and I think Wright State, their path out of regionals is not going to be easy. But if they make it to
For
super
sure.
regionals, it's not going to be easy then either, because they have to go up against either Oregon, Central Connecticut State, I'm sorry, LSU or Gonzaga. More teams that are just, they're here for a reason. They're really good, top 64 in the country. So this is going to be a lot of fun coming up here to watch.
Yeah, I mean, these are, like you said, these are the big boys. You get to the NCAA tournament, it's the top 64 teams in the country, and only the top 16 get out. And so it's, like you have to be the best of the best to get out of, to get to the tournament, but you have to be the truly best of the best to get out of regionals. And like we've both said, it's not going to be easy for Wright State, but it's it's there. The path is there. And that's something that's really all you can ask for. It's like when the basketball team matched up against Arkansas, or a couple years ago when Wright State matched up against Tennessee in basketball. It's like, hey, it's not going to be easy, but it's a team that if the Wright State plays their game, they can hang with. And that's how I feel about with all three teams in this region. Tennessee, very, very good. Wright State beat them just a year ago. And here I'm looking at their batting stats, Parker. They have a lot of power, but they don't have the same kind of caliber hitters that Wright State has. Like reading off their averages here from their starters. 332, Jake Rucker's their best player. He hits 332, 7 home runs, 50 RBIs, 18 doubles. This guy's going to be the guy to watch out for. But other than him, 278, 266, 262, 244, 253, 272. Solid, but it's not the Raider gang. The Raider gang have like 6 guys over 320. I think Wright State might have the better offense. The thing is, Chad Dallas is a nasty starting pitcher, but Wright State, we talk about how good their offense is because it's the best in the country. Their pitching staff isn't bad either. With guys like Schrand, Klein, and Bremer, Wright State might only need to score 4 or 5 runs to beat Tennessee. They might only need, 2, 3, 4 runs against Chad Dallas to have a shot.
Yeah, and this is a Wright State team. One of our colleagues, Chris Collins, said in the broadcast over this weekend, the entire Wright State batting lineup is batting over 300, with the exception of Alex Alders, and he's batting 290. So he's not far off.
I was going to say Alders is a really solid hitter, so it's not like that's a diss on him in any way.
Yeah, and if you put me in a fight against any of these guys, the last person I want to have to see in an alley is Alex Alders.
Absolutely, 100% agree. The Alders family, I do not want to tussle with at Wright State.
even Megan would scare the heck out of me.
I was going to say Megan's got some intimidation in her own right. So
right. I mean, we've seen the cannon. We've seen the cannon that Megan has. So
and Alex is what, like 6'4" and 220.
And believe me, he looks bigger in person. Yeah, I promise you. So but it's true. This team is, if it's all going to be contingent on if Wright State pitching. If their pitchers can lock it down. If Coach Hendrickson, Coach Foster, and Coach Sogard can get that pitching staff into shape, and they can find ways to kind of throw around these guys. With the exception of the Tennessee's top hitter, they're going to be they're a team that's beatable. And like you said, they're not going to have to score 21 runs like they did on Saturday to beat Tennessee. I'm okay if they do, but
if they did.
But you're not going to have to put out max effort. And I think that's what Wright State tried to do here in this Horizon League tournament, but kind of save those big outings for when you need them most, when you hopefully make it to super regionals and hopefully beyond. I mean, how cool would it see to be Wright State be represented in the College World Series? That'd be awesome. But that this is it's going to be tough for Wright State, no doubt about it. But it's something that I put out a tweet on Saturday after Wright State won the Horizon League title. Coach Sogard told me early in the year on my show they like a tough battle early on with tough SEC opponents.
Mm-hmm.
And Tennessee is just another tough SEC opponent. And I said those tests paid off. And I think those tests are going to come into play here. Granted, they went 0-5 on the road against these SEC schools, but Wright State went 32-6 since then. So they're a really good team, and they have the talent, and they have the offensive firepower to beat Tennessee. So I really think they can do it. I really do. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a dogfight, but Wright State can pull it out.
I'll tell you what. If they can hang with Vanderbilt, and I know let's ignore the Rocker game because I know that was a bad one. They lost 1-0 to Jack Leiter, who might be the best pitcher in college baseball, and they hung with Vanderbilt for the majority of that series. They hung with Alabama that entire series. They can hang with Vandy, and they can hang with Bama. They can hang with Tennessee, and I promise you that. Vanderbilt's more talented than Tennessee. Tennessee had a better season. Vanderbilt's got better baseball players. So if Wright State can hang with Vanderbilt like they did, they can hang with Tennessee. And looking at the other two teams in this region, Duke, they're okay. They went 32-20. It's a solid team, but it's not nowhere near as good as Tennessee. And they went 13-17 away from home this year. So they struggle away from Duke. And Liberty is a lot like Wright State, a mid-major that had a really strong season and is looking to make a name for themselves here in the tournament. So Wright State, this is a tall order to ask, but if they can beat Tennessee on Friday, they might emerge as the team that is the most likely to get out of this region.
Yeah, they will. And this is something that we've seen Wright State that they've played well all season long. They really have. They've blown the doors off my expectations. And
I think they've blown the door off their own expectations, to be honest.
Right. And they're really good. So and it's gonna be a tough test. Tony Vitello's team is really good. They really are, and they have the talent. And this is a reminder that Alabama team is not in the NCAA tournament. They were one of the first four. They're going to be some of the first four in. Or they're going to be some of the first four in if somebody drops out. But they just fell out of the NCAA tournament. And that's a team that Wright State hung with. One of those games went to extras. So this is going to be like we keep saying, a tough task for Wright State. But these are winnable games. They really are.
They sure are. And this brings me to the fun debate part of this because I don't know what Coach Sogard's thinking. I don't know what. I don't even. Maybe this has already been decided. Obviously, for the majority of the season, we've considered Jake Schramm the ace of the Wright State Raiders. And I think he's a very solid pitcher. But he's had 2 or 3 starts in the last couple of weeks that he was inconsistent and that he barely got to the 5th inning and that he gave up a couple, bad innings. So my question is, Tennessee, this is a big, big game. You're going to go up against Chad Dallas. You have a chance to pull off a huge upset and throw the Knoxville region up on its butt. Who do you pitch? Do you stick with Strand, or do you maybe try one of the hotter pitchers right now in Klein or Bremer?
See, this is interesting to me because, like you said, as good as
and
Strand has been,
Strand's got the stuff, man. He throws like 95 consistently. Strand throws ched.
Right. Yeah. This Strand is the hardest throwing pitcher on this team, without a doubt. And this is something that this is going to be interesting to see what Coach Sogard decides to do because over last weekend, both Klein and Bremer both went over 100 pitches. And one thing, once I'm gonna kind of browse off topic of Wright State here for a second, but Milwaukee's pitcher, I think his name was Mike something, but on Saturday, or the day before the championship game and their second elimination game, their pitcher went 8 innings on 143 pitches and won Milwaukee that game. So it's just determination if I've ever seen it.
Well, and did you see the first night of the tournament, Youngstown State, they had the Horizon League Pitcher of the Year, Colin Floyd. He pitched 5 innings in the first game. They lost, and then he pitched the first 3 innings of the second game later on that day.
Yeah. Your best comes out come tournament time, and that's what we saw from all these teams in the Horizon League tournament. But the Raider game just
is better than everyone else.
Really shot the cannon off of every team, and Milwaukee was the team I thought would give Wright State the most trouble after that first game. they skated out of there with a
They ran
win,
out of
but
pitchers, honestly. They ran out of
they
pitchers.
come out and they score 3 touchdowns. It's unbelievable. So it was really great to see. But going back to Tennessee, this is an interesting debate because I think as good as Strand has been, do you ride the hot hand? Do you put Klein in or do you put Bremer in? I think you gotta. I don't think this is gonna be. I don't think what they've done is working. I don't think they're gonna shy away from it. I think it will be Strand coming up here against Tennessee. But I think Coach Sogard's gonna have a short fuse. I really do.
Well,
He's not.
here's
He's not
another.
gonna. He's as loyal as a coach that Coach Sogard is. He's not going to have the patience for this because this is not a time where you can get complacent and get patient with your pitchers. If he starts to run into trouble, get a guy throwing, take him out, get somebody else in there. So that's what I think the plan of attack is for Coach Sogard. He's going to ride with what he's got, but his fuse is going to be shorter.
Yeah. And here's another thing that's interesting. And like you said, you got to just do what you got to do to get to the next day because this team's going to have to, if this team makes the wrong decision and loses to Tennessee, they're already playing either Duke or Liberty the next day with their back against the wall and their season on the line. So this is a big decision for Sogard. I agree with you. I think he goes with Strand in the end. I don't think he ventures away from the guy that's been the guy all year. And more times than not, Jake Strand has been a really elite starting pitcher this season. But here's another thing they could do. Klein, obviously a senior. He has the most experience out of any pitcher on this team. Do you kind of take a risk and try to go for wins right off the bat and do Strand against Tennessee and save Klein for Saturday and you move Bremer to the bullpen in case one of them doesn't have a kind of game that you want him to have. And then if either Strand or Klein has to get taken out before you want him to, you have Bremer, Shirk, and Hornsmeyer out of the bullpen.
See, I don't think you do that. I don't think you move Bremer to the pen. I really don't. You have guys like Shirk who have proven they can go long innings, and I just don't like that. I really don't.
Okay.
From what we've seen all year, I think you got to stick with what's been working. Shirk put on a hell of a performance on Thursday,
He
and
did.
I think he's going to be riding off of a high from that, and I think he'll play well, and he will. And if there's a guy, if Wright State gets in sort of a pinch, if Coach Sargar gets in a pinch, I think you throw Shirk in there, and you have faith in your guys. And with as good as Shirk played on Thursday, wouldn't surprise me to see Coach Sogard throw him in there if they're in a pinch.
No doubt about it. And I mean, like you said, Jake Shirk's been a stud this year. He's a true freshman. The bullpen's the X factor for me. The Wright State has three really solid starters. They have the best lineup in college baseball, but the bullpen, although they have the talent, they have the stuff, they haven't been in a lot of close games this year. And these games against Tennessee and Duke and Liberty, they're going to be close games. So you need guys that can get big outs in big situations. And right now, I just don't know how many of those guys that you have other than Jake Shirk.
Yeah, it's interesting because if you run out of pitchers, you're screwed. First
Absolutely.
of all, um, so from my coaching experience, retired, but from my coaching experience, um, you got to have guys that can pitch. Because if you run out of pitchers, you're done. It's just the way it is.
No,
Offense can only keep it in you for so long.
right.
You got to have guys that can come out of the pen and shut it down.
Right. And
This is
I'm like 95% sure Shirk's going to pitch in that Tennessee game, which means he won't be available on Saturday. So you need to find somebody that can pitch that 2 innings that you need on Saturday. Is it Gremling? Is it Hornschmeyer? Who is it? They have a lot of guys that have the stuff, like I said, but Jake Shirk's not going to be able to pitch every single game.
Here's the problem. I think that Coach Stargard is going to tell his guys, hey, especially his pitching staff, hey, every single one of you is going to be available every day.
Yep.
If you've pitched the day before, unless you've gone long innings or you have a high pitch count, you're going to be available the next day. This is not a time where you get complacent. This is not a time where you let guys rest. He's going to ride his guys until they drop, I think.
Right.
And guys like Shirk who have played well, but he's going to have to be available every day. Guys like Hornschmeyer, guys like I wouldn't even be surprised to see Klein or Bremer come in after they started and come out of the pen.
Well, I was just about to say that. I mean, we just talked about how hard Schran throws. I mean, Schran pitches on Friday, and you're in, a game to keep your season alive on Sunday or whatever against Duke or whatever it is. Schran might come in and try and close out the game in the ninth inning just because he throws 95.
Yeah, and that's originally what personally that's what I thought in the fall with as hard as as hard as Schran throws. I was sitting there thinking this guy's going to be a closer. There's no doubt about it. But Sogard, I mean, he impressed Coach Sogard enough to where he gave him a starting role, and he's been the ace, if you will, for this Red State team all year long. So
Yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me to see a guy like Klein come out of the bullpen, Bremer or Strand come out of the pen on a Saturday or Sunday game if they need it. But they also have guys like Shirk. They have guys like Hornschmeyer. Mitch Gremling got the final out on Saturday for the Raiders. So there's plenty of guys in that pen that are more than capable of getting big outs when needed for Wright State.
No doubt about it. All right, last thing we're going to touch on before we move into basketball here to end the show. Parker, we talked about it briefly, but sum it up for all the people that are just now tuning in. What does the Raider gang have to do to get out of the Knoxville regional and get to Supers?
So my three key, I'm gonna say three things for three keys, and you can do the same if you want to. High scoring. You got to score runs. That's the first thing for me. You got to score as many runs as you can to beat these great teams because these are the best of the best. Shut down pitching. You need to pitch very well. You need to pitch very well from out of the gate. And this is a team that I think they get burnt out offensively. And going back to that first point on offense, you don't need to score 20 runs to beat these teams.
Mhm.
If you're pitching well, score 6 or 7 or 8 runs. You don't need to score a high amount of runs for that. And third, bullpen. Your bullpen needs to be on point, and you need to come out and you need to shut teams down in the later innings because in today's game, it's getting harder and harder to score as we go later into games. If you can make that tough on your opponents, you're going to win.
All right, I've got three things as well. I'll start off with good at bats. Tennessee, Duke, great starting pitching. Chad Dallas, I'm sorry, you're probably only going to score 1, 2, maybe 3 runs against him if you're lucky. But what you can do is work 5, 6 pitch at bats against him and get him out of the game by the 5th or 6th inning and take your chances with that Tennessee bullpen. Because the beautiful thing about college baseball and really any level of baseball, Parker, you never know what the hell you're going to get when somebody comes out of that bullpen. You know what you're getting out of the starter after the first 2 innings. It could be the best reliever in college baseball, but he might not have it that day. You never know.
Right.
So get Chad Dallas into high pitch counts, get the starter into high pitch counts, good at bats, work full counts, work good at bats, and get to the bullpen, because the more you tax a team's bullpen, the easier it's going to be to beat them down the stretch. My second key is the bullpen as well. I think this, like I said earlier, this bullpen hasn't had a lot of high leverage big game situations all season. They have the stuff, they have the talent. Now it's all about going out there, getting outs, and being, living up to the talent that Coach Sogard saw in this bullpen when he recruited them. And my third key, and this is the most important one, limit mistakes. That's what hurts teams like this in the NCAA tournament. Limit your mistakes. If you're a pitcher, don't give out any free passes. Don't walk guys. This is one of the best offensive teams in the country. Don't give them a chance to score just because you can't find the strike zone. If you're on defense, no stupid errors, no throwing errors. Don't miss the cutoff man. Field that easy ground ball to short. No mistakes, because a team like Tennessee will pounce on you as soon as you make a mistake. And when you're at the plate, the biggest thing, or when you're on the base paths, whatever, runner on first, base hit, don't get thrown out going first to third. Don't get thrown out tagging up and going to the plate. You need every single run you can get. You need every single opportunity you can get against a team like Tennessee. The way they played in the Horizon League tournament was excellent. They took advantage of opportunities. They played winning baseball, hit and runs, first to third, really smart baseball. If they play that way, they've got a chance against anyone in this tournament.
Yeah, and one thing that you said that I really agree with you is limiting those mistakes, and like you said, stupid mistakes, and it is killer for teams like this, and I really agree with you here because, like you said, you don't know what you have coming out of the bullpen. You really don't. I'll give you an example. When I was coaching, I coached Little League. There was a kid in 5th grade who I think was 6'5".
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, but He comes out and he throws hard, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh, we're done, man." But going back to Wright State, this is a team that Coach Sogard has preached, and I think this is what I loved about the Horizon League tournament. They played old school ball, hit and runs, move runners. Do not rely on the home run ball,
No,
because if you rely on the home run ball, chances are you ain't gonna hit one.
no.
So
Chad Dallas has only given up 15 home runs this year. I mean, that's
exactly.
one per start. You might get one home run in that game.
Right. So this is, you can't rely on the home run ball, and this is something that we need to see another game like Damon Dews had. He hit for the cycle. He went 5 for 5. I mean, congratulations to Dews. What a game he had on Saturday. But this is something that we need to, you need to have good at bats. And when it goes back to pitching, don't pitch around guys, because when you pitch around guys, you're gonna walk them. And Tennessee's not a team that strikes out a lot.
No.
They draw a lot of walks. They're just like Wright State. They put up good at bats, draw walks, and Wright State needs to draw those walks, and that's what you got to do.
Yep.
And if you draw those walks, a lot of times the next guy will get a pitch he likes. He'll smack it to the wall in center field and have a double, 2-run double, or whatever it is. So this is what needs to happen for Wright State. Like you said, limit those mistakes. For pitching, go after guys. Don't try to paint the corners. Don't try to get cute. Throw one really hard down the middle, and throw one like a nasty cutter or nasty change to kind of freak guys out a little bit.
Yeah.
And because if you try to pitch around guys, they're gonna walk, and walks hurt you.
Yeah, they do. Last two things I want to hit on. I totally agree with you. Something, I don't mean to speak for Strand. I don't mean to speak for Bremer. I don't mean to speak for Klein or whatever, any of these guys. Obviously, I don't know them personally. I don't know what they're thinking right now. But a lot of times these mid-majors struggle in the tournament because their pitchers get in their own heads about, hey, I'm not good enough to strike out guys on Tennessee. I'm not good enough to strike out guys on Vanderbilt. Wright State's pitching staff is good enough to hang with Tennessee's offense. I just read off the stats. They have one guy that hits over 300. Strand, Bremer, and Klein are all capable of shutting down this lineup, and you just got to go into the game with that mentality. If it's Jake Strand, go into that game thinking I'm the baddest MFer on the planet, and I'm going to shut down this Tennessee lineup for 5 or 6 innings. You do that, you're going to be in really good shape. And the last thing I wanted to mention, this offense is obviously great, like you mentioned, but how cool is it? One of my favorite things about this roster, obviously Tyler Black from Toronto, but two of the best hitters on this team from the G-Walk right here in Dayton, Quincy Hamilton from Centerville and Damon Dews from Springboro. And how hot of a bat does Damon Dews have right now heading into the tournament?
Oh my gosh, man! I mean, he's hitting the skin off the ball. And one story that came out on Saturday that I just had to laugh. They have that home run squirrel with the ball sitting on the dugout steps right by the top of the dugout steps. I think they call him Homer the Squirrel.
The squirrel.
And he brings them good luck. And you can see him when in Wright State's home dugout. And the story behind that is a guy from the had it in high school, and I guess Coach Sogard loved it so much. He's like, I love it. Let's keep it around. So that's one thing that I love. And like you said, I'm going to agree with you on this point. And I know we got to get to basketball, but we will. And this is what I just love. And like you said, limit mistakes. Don't get inside your own head. Don't think about if a ball's dropping in front of you in right field, don't think about it. Because if you start to think about it, all of a sudden it's under your glove and he has a base, maybe even 2 more bases on you. So if it's you got, just don't think about it. Pick up that ball, get it to your cutoff man. If you're fielding it,
baseball,
right? If basic fundamentals are get overlooked a lot, but you can't overlook things like that because the basic fundamentals, if you get complacent with those fundamentals, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make errors. They're going to ball go through your legs. You're going to miss an easy catch. You're going to miss a ground ball that a play you should make a lot of the time. So this is, like you said, don't get complacent. Don't think about what you're doing, because if you get inside your own head, you're going to make a mistake and you're going to cost the team the game.
No doubt about it. And we're about to move into basketball, but last thing I'm going to say is
we've said last thing like for the last 15 minutes.
I swear is the last thing I'm going to say. Chad Dallas, one of the best starting pitchers in college baseball. but good luck because you're going to be facing this lineup. And I'm going to read it off for all of you at home because it's pretty nasty. Dews, Hamilton, Black, Sass, Sayre, Harris, Alders, Piotto, McConnell. I don't know if there's a better one in the country than that.
Yeah, I don't either. And Sayre's hitting the best on this team. He has 414. He's hitting the skin off the ball. So I'm terrified if I'm Chad Dallas or any of these Vols pitchers right now.
No doubt about it. All right, let's try and blaze through this really quick. We got about 20 minutes. We'll make it happen, but we'll start with the women's side. Horizon League, way too early. Horizon League basketball preview. We'll start with the Wright State Raiders, and it's something we've kind of already talked about, Parker. Wright State just has a lot of question marks right now in year one of Carrie Hoffman. What's the roster going to look like? Who's going to be the top returning player? Is it going to be Shamari Hale? Is it going to be, KK White? Is it going to be I can't Jada Wright. I mean, there's still some players coming back that made some contributions last year, but a lot of question marks. And like I said, it's way too early predictions. But for Wright State, it's way, way too early to talk about what this team's going to look like because there's still so many questions to be answered.
Yeah, this is one where we just don't know. I mean, you lose your coach, you lose 3 or 4 of your players, 3 or 4 of your top players, with a new look, we're coming in with Coach Hoffman. We sit here and we say we don't know, and we don't. We really don't. This is one of the toughest things to predict, especially on the women's side. As good as our women's teams was last year. This is. I mean, there's change every single year, but this change has hit Wright State hard for our women's basketball squad. It really has. So, you lose Frierson, you lose Baker, you lose Jefferson, you lose. There's one more that I'm missing, but you lose players, and it's tough. But that's basketball. You move on, you find a way to win, and I think that's what Coach Hoffman is preaching to her team right now. We're gonna move forward. She's inheriting half of a roster than what Wright State ended the year with. She has about 8 players right now on that roster, I think, is what I heard the other day. So, this is going to be interesting because we don't know what recruits are coming in as far as freshmen go, and we don't know who's going to transfer in, if any at all. So this is going to be tough. I think we're going to be back to square one like we saw 2 years ago. Very young team, a very inexperienced team. Unlike what we've seen last few years. Last year was more of a veteran team, but we're going to go back to square one, and that starts with our coach, Coach Hoffman. I think. It sounds like Bob Grant has a lot of confidence in her. If Bob Grant's good with it, who might argue?
Bob Grant's never, right? In my time at Wright State, Bob Grant's never missed one. So
right. So yeah, this is if BG likes it, I'm good with it too.
Good enough for me.
This is going to be interesting to see Coach Hoffman going into year one. I'm interested to see what kind of coaching staff she has. I know a lot of we lost a lot of coaches as well with some of those coaches following Coach Trina to Memphis, but that we'll have a new coaching staff, and we'll have lots of new faces, along with some returning faces, but lots of new faces on this women's basketball team.
Yeah, because we're a little low on time, I'm going to knock out 3 teams at once, Parker, and I'll let you react to all 3 when we're done here. But I'm not naive. I think now with Macy Williams returning for IUPUI, I think they're the favorites in this league right now. And I'll also bring up Milwaukee. They have Brandy Bisping coming back, Megan Wallstad, and many key contributors from a team that was in first place for a large portion of last season. So I like them a lot as well. And another team that's always at the top is the Green Bay Phoenix, especially with Haley Oskey returning and one of the best coaches in the Horizon League, Kevin Borseth. Those are 3 teams to watch out for at the top of the conference this year. IUPUI, Green Bay, and Milwaukee.
Yeah, and I agree with you here. I think Coach Borseth is one of the best, if not the best, in the Horizon League up there in Green Bay. I'm with you on IUPUI. You have the reigning player of the year, Macy Williams, coming back to IUPUI. So I think they're going to be the favorites. Milwaukee still has Bisping and more players and other players like that. They return a lot of their players. So I agree with you. I think that top 3 for the Horizon League as far as women's basketball goes has got to be IUPUI, Green Bay, and Milwaukee. But none of these teams are pushover teams except for maybe UIC and Detroit Mercy and Purdue Fort Wayne. That was one game each last year. So, but other than that, none of these teams are pushover teams. They're really not. So, You got to look out for teams like, Youngstown State. They were very good towards the end of last year.
They were.
With Mary Dunn there. And I know she won't be back, but there are players that are returning, and no bigger names than Macy Williams, than Brandy Bisping. So there's a lot of big names coming back for these top teams. So it's got to be, like you said, IUPUI, Green Bay, and Milwaukee. But it'll be interesting to see how Wright State will shape up against these teams here coming into the year.
No doubt about it. I just got a text, and I think my internet's back at the apartment. So that's a W for me. Let's go. We're gonna be able to come back and watch some Netflix or something before I go to bed. So that's a W. But last thing I want to touch on here on the women's side is Cleveland State. Mariah White comes back. She was the top scorer in the Horizon League for a majority of the season before Angel Baker's month plus to end the season. That was just, on another level. But Mariah White comes back. Cleveland State was a team that got red hot in the second half, made it to the Horizon League semifinals, and for about 3/4 in that game, gave Wright State quite the fight. I expect Cleveland State to be another dark horse contender this year as well.
Yeah, there's lots of sleeper teams that nobody expects to be good, and you really don't. And I think Green Bay was that team in the Horizon League last year for the women's side. They ended up finishing third in the conference, 14-4 overall. But there are dark horse teams, and like you said, Cleveland State's got to be on the lookout for one of these sleeper teams. We'll get to men's basketball here in a minute, but there's plenty of teams you could go down the list and for our men's
Sure.
teams. So, any team in the Horizon League on the men's side has a chance to win a bunch of games. So, this is what's the most fun about the Horizon League. Any team can win anytime on any given night. So. This is what's fun about Horizon League basketball. I think it's the best conference for basketball in the country. I really do.
Okay, we're gonna switch over to men's. Here's where the hot take comes in. By no means am I disrespecting or bashing the Wright State men's basketball team. I love Scott Nagy as a head coach. Tanner Holden, Grant Basili, Tim Finke, Trey Calvin, Riley Voss, CJ Wilborn. This team has a ton of talent, and they're going to be at the top of the conference. And I know you agree with me there, and I think a lot of people at home agree with me there. But as of right now, not knowing what Loudon Love's going to do, they're not my favorite in the Horizon League. I'm picking the Milwaukee Panthers as my favorites right now, bringing in Patrick Baldwin Jr., the number 4 high school player in the country. I showed you that video a couple days ago, Parker. He reminds me so much of Jason Tatum. The way he's built, the way he moves, the way he shoots, the way he creates space. He looks like the Horizon League's version of Jason Tatum.
He does. And I know that, we're going to ruffle some feathers here, but right now on paper, I agree with you. Right. Yeah. Milwaukee looks fantastic.
And it's not just Baldwin. They also got Josh Thomas, one of the best bench players in the Horizon League, coming back for a year. DeAndre Golston comes back. They don't have T. John Lucas coming back, but they do have Golston, who hit that shot with 0.7 seconds left last year in the quarterfinals to force overtime. Yeah, I know, Wright State fans. That still stings for me too. But Golston comes back. Josh Thomas comes back. They get Patrick Baldwin Jr., and they get that 7-foot transfer from UCF along with Patrick Baldwin Sr. I think he's a great coach. I think he's a very slept-on coach. He always has Milwaukee higher up in the standings than they should be. Now they're a contender, and right now with that talent that they have on that roster, I think they're the best team in the Horizon League, not knowing what Loudon Love's going to do.
Yeah, this is tough for me. So I know we're going to move into this next segment here really quick, and I'm going to pick 3 teams that I like here in the Horizon League for next year.
Okay.
Number 1 is Milwaukee. Like you said, for all the reasons you just said, Pat Baldwin Sr. is a hell of a coach. And he proved it in that quarterfinal game. Still stings. I know.
But it hurts for me too.
Right. So Milwaukee's got to be number 1 on this list. Number 2 for me is Wright State, because they're always at the top. They are have the talent there. And number 3 for me is got to be Cleveland State with the performance that they brought in last year. They made the NCAA tournament, won the Horizon League. They're very tough, and that's my top 3 right now is Milwaukee, Wright State, and Cleveland State. But honorable, you could have like 6 honorable mentions here because these teams are really good, and NKU is always good. Even when it seems like they have nobody on that team, they're somehow good. As well as, Antoine Davis up at Detroit Mercy's very talented. Youngstown State lost Quisenberry and they lost Bohannon, but I
Still
somehow
about Shea and Covington, so
right. So they're still fantastic. So all these teams have the talent. They really do. So I'm excited to watch the Horizon League basketball coming up this year. I'm excited to get back to the Nutter Center and call these games.
yeah, no doubt about it. And I totally agree with you on Wright State and Cleveland State. I had them on my list as well. Wright State's still a very heavy contender with Basili, Holden, Finke, Calvin, Voss, Wilborn, and Hubricks. Like I mentioned, is Loudon Love coming back? If he comes back, I think this team's better than Milwaukee, but I don't know if he's coming back right now. So as of right now, I like Milwaukee better just based on what I know is going to be on each team. But Wright State is a top 3 team in this league. I think I'd put them top 2. And if Loudon Love comes back, I think they're the team to beat for sure. Cleveland State, I like them a lot. They're the defending champs. Dennis Gates just got a huge contract, well-deserved. And they also got Torrey Patton coming back. They got Craig Bodeon coming back. They got Trago Millian coming back. And they also received very talented transfers from Pacific and Florida State. This Cleveland State team seems to have gotten better. And that's scary because they're the defending champions as well. 2 teams I'm also going to throw in are teams that you kind of briefly mentioned. Detroit Mercy, the senior season of Antoine Davis. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he led the nation in scoring this year. He came second as a freshman only to Trae Young. I could see him dropping 30 a game this year. I really could. And then Noah Waterman stepped up as a really good Robin to Antoine Davis's Batman last year. He comes back as well. Mike Davis is a heck of a coach at Detroit Mercy. They got better and better as the year went on. They lost at the buzzer to Northern Kentucky, but I think that's a team that's going to be in the top 5. And I'll also throw in Northern Kentucky because they have maybe the most dynamic duo in the league that isn't on Milwaukee or Wright State, and that's Marquez Warwick, the reigning freshman of the year in the conference. I expect him to be an all-conference caliber player this year, as well as all-conference guard Trayvon Faulkner going into his senior season. They also have one of my favorite coaches in the Horizon League, as much as I hate to admit that. Darren Horn's a heck of a coach.
Yeah. All of these teams are, like I said, they're, just fantastic. And coaching is top level. It really is.
There's like 8 or 9 good coaches in this conference.
Right, and more we see guys getting bigger jobs. An assistant coach for Wright State, Coach Cooley, just went to Colorado State. There's guys that are getting big name jobs. Me and you both speculated that Coach Gates at Cleveland State was going to be a favorite for Boston College.
Yeah,
and there's
and Cleveland State. I think the reason why Cleveland State gave him an extension was because he was a candidate for that job. It's like Cleveland State knew they had to pay him to keep him.
Right, and there are guys that are just getting more and more jobs. Further and further down the road. It won't surprise me to see Coach Nagy get a bigger job here in the near future. It really won't. Guys like Coach Gates, Coach Nagy, Pat Baldwin Jr. Senior at Milwaukee. The guys like that are gonna get more recognition. I'm honestly surprised that Coach Campy has stayed at Oakland for as long as he has, because he's had some good teams, especially that one last year. Oakland's another dark horse team that I love. I love Coach Campy as well. There up at Oakland. So there are just a bunch. I mean, just so many great coaches here in the Horizon League that seemingly get new jobs every single year. And we saw Brad Brownell here at Wright State. He's the head coach of Clemson. There's a bunch of guys getting bigger name jobs, and they all come from the Horizon League because people have seen how good the talent is in the Horizon League and how hard it is to win in the Horizon League. So it doesn't surprise me to see 5, 6, 7 teams all fighting for 4 spots to go in to head to Indianapolis. So there are teams that are really good, and it's a dogfight every year to get to Indy.
Absolutely, it sure is, and it's not going to change this year by any means. And I'm glad we did this because now I think I'm okay. I can breathe a little bit and not talk, or I don't have to fangirl about Horizon League basketball until the schedule comes out in July. So I think I'll be okay for about 6 weeks, and then when the schedule comes out, I'll be fangirling about that. So very excited. Appreciate you hanging out with us today here on Keep It Real. We had a lot of fun, as we always do. But again, one last plug for the social media. Follow us at WWSU 106.9. Again, 3 different spots you can find us at: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Follow us there. And tell our marketing director, Morgan, that we sent you, and maybe she'll, say something. I don't know. She probably won't, but she might. Who knows? But she's killing it, and we'd appreciate if you showed her some support, because she's really taking us to the next level on social media. So also follow us on our personals at Parker Testa, at ESPN Shea Neal, where you can keep up to date with all the show topics. Sometimes we ask you what you want to hear, so make sure you follow us for that, as well as sometimes we just ramble about stupid stuff. So if you want to hear us ramble about stupid stuff 24/7 instead of just 2 hours a day, you can follow us on Twitter. So there you go.
There's a lot that goes on Twitter, whether it's us giving our thoughts on anything that we feel relevant. I know I tweeted about Chipotle last week. Yep. I know we roast each other on Twitter a lot. So I mean, if you want to hear, it won't surprise me if you don't. But
we were talking about starting a podcast on the stuff we say after we're done recording.
Yeah, and that could be an hour show in itself.
Facts. It would not be safe for viewing, and it would not be safe for the airwaves, but no, I tweeted this morning, I kicked the edge of my couch getting up this morning, and I'm honestly surprised I haven't broken like 6 toes from kicking furniture in my life. Like,
I know
that hurts.
Yeah, I know. For the longest time, I got rid of it a couple months ago, but I had this bed frame that had posts on it that were right at hip height. And I would bash my hips seemingly two or three times a day. And I'm surprised I don't have permanent damage somewhere. But no doubt about it. Stubbing your toe on anything just hurts.
Yeah. Yep. But
see, folks, if we had a podcast about after the show topics, this is an example of what would be in there.
Stubbing your toe, and Chipotle in Noblesville. There you go. Episode 1. We'll even let you call in and be guests. There you go.
Yeah.
Because we don't care if you swear on the podcast. But yeah, we appreciate you hanging out with us. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, 1 to 3. Happy June to everyone again, one final time. Hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend. And until tomorrow, this is Shea Neal alongside Parker Testa saying keep it real, and we'll see you tomorrow.